Hare Krishna. I came in contact with the Hare Krishna movement in 1972. At that time, devotees were trying to sell their Back to Godhead in the streets of Amsterdam, where I lived. I was about 22 years old. And not only the Hare Krishnas you could find in the street, but also the Guru Maharajis and the Children of God, and all kinds of groups were there on the street trying to convert the people who passed by. And I always tried to avoid them going to the other side of the street or making a big circle around them, because I was not looking for God at that time, and because religious people in my eyes was in those days, they were like boring people, as far as I remembered when I was brought up. And so I didn't want to have anything to do with them. I remember reading a magazine somewhere. It was just lying around in a shop, a coffee shop, and I flicked to that issue, and I found it interesting. But then they were talking about the 4 rules and regulations, and then I thought, well, that's the only thing which gives me enjoyment in this life. So then I put it aside again. The Hare Krishna temple happened to be just 5 minutes away from where I stayed. And then one day I was buying some fruits and vegetables in a corner shop when a Hare Krishna passed by. And that shop was just like opposite where the temple was. And the lady of the shop said that she had been on a Sunday to the temple, and she had a great time and a wonderful experience. So although I wasn't interested in religion, because Sunday afternoon was, I always was bored on Sunday afternoon. Didn't know where to go on Sunday afternoon. So on one Sunday, probably very soon after she told me that, I went to the temple. And when I entered the temple, I enjoyed it actually. I enjoyed the way it was decorated. I enjoyed the smell of incense. I appreciated the lecture, the philosophy, and I enjoyed very much the prasadam. At that time they were serving like really 10-course meals with preparations which you now will be offered on a special festival day. You know, 2 kinds of sabjis, samosas, pakoras, puris, all cooked in ghee. Sweet rice, halwa, simply wonderfuls, and I really enjoyed the prasadam. The next Sunday, in the morning, I came out of my front door, and there I saw a devotee chanting japa. I didn't know what he was doing, but he was in my street. But later on I realized he was chanting japa. And he recognized me, and he said, "Hey, are you coming this Sunday as well?" And I said, okay. So I went to the temple in the afternoon. And after the class, when we were asking questions and answers, so I asked, if there is a God, why is there war? And, why is there poverty? Why is there hunger in Biafra? At that time there was hunger in Biafra. And then he answered that it's not God who causes us to suffer, but that we are enjoying or suffering the results of previous activities in this life or in previous lifetimes. And somehow that made sense to me. So when I was young, I went to a Sunday school, and I was about 8 years old. The teachers were talking about the story that Adam and Eve, they had 2 children, Cain and Abel. And Cain slayed Abel. And then he was sent away to a city. And then I asked my teachers, my Sunday school teachers, if he was human being number 3, where did all these people of that city came from? And they looking at each other, and they didn't know the answer. Then I thought, well, why should I go to the Sunday school if they don't know the answers? They're just stories like that. And my parents, they were not very religious, and the people I knew who were religious, I found them always very, boring or fanatic and dry. So I was not very attracted to religion and to God. And when in 1972, just before visiting the temple, in the years previously, I studied song, dance and drama. And when I was in the 2nd grade, I went to an open audition for a musical called Godspell. I just went along with the 3rd graders who were actually going to audition, and I just wanted to look at what was happening and how things were going. And when the producer spotted me, because I looked like Jeremy Irons, who at that time, my hair and tall, who played the part of Judas and John the Baptist in London version of the musical, he asked me to audition. So I auditioned, and then I got the part. I was very surprised. So when I was younger, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, I had so many desires, and they were all fulfilled when I was 22. I moved to Amsterdam, I was in love, I had a lead part in a musical, saw my pictures in newspapers, saw my face in close-up on television, but something weird happened, that I wasn't satisfied. And I thought to myself, now I have everything what I was hoping to have when I was younger, and here I have it, and I'm still not fulfilled. Is this all there is? This question was there. So, while still in that, playing in that, performing in that show, we were touring Holland and Belgium, and so that means you get on a coach and you travel 3 or 4 hours before the show actually starts, driving there, costumes, makeup, etc., and then going back afterwards. So at that time, driving like that, you get bored. And one of the girls in my group, she was a vegetarian, and she had all kinds of New Age literature. So I started reading them because I was bored, and I found them interesting. So when the show was over, that was in February '73, I went to the library of the university, and I started reading all kinds of books on philosophy, religion. But everything I read was interesting, but there was always things in it which didn't make sense, or it wasn't nicely explained somewhere or other. So I remember reading the book of Buddha, A Life of Buddha, and when I read that book, I thought, oh, he's a prince, he's happily married, good looking, he has everything, so much more than I have, in fullness, and he's also not happy. So that's why I was very intrigued, and say, oh, see, what did he find? So I was devouring that book, you know, like really, here's the answer. And then I came to the conclusion, which was that, you know, it was not about that we are an individual soul, you know, that we would just be like a piece of energy, like floating around or whatever. And that idea, I thought, how can I, who love to have deep conversations or who like to joke around and to sing and dance, how can I be just a piece of energy? You know, it's boring. And so I became very, very depressed. I became really, really depressed. And I think, what is, you know, what is the goal of life? And it's so, I was 23, I saw a wrinkle here somewhere, and I thought, my youth is over, I'm going to die one day. And then at that time, I don't know why, I was planning to go to India, to a forest, to find out why I'm existing. And I told my neighbors, you know, I want to go to India. So, and then, that was the time when I came to the temple. So, I've been there, I was there for the second time. I bought the Bhagavad-Gītā as it is, and I bought the Goddess of Fortune album. I went home, and before I went home, they said, why don't you come back tomorrow morning? We have Mongol Aarti at 4:30. Well, I live 5 minutes away from it, from the temple, so I thought, okay. So, the next morning, I was there at 4:30, knocked on the door opened, it was a garage, and in front there was they had all the laundry, so all like orange dhotis. At that time everyone was wearing saffron, even if they were one day in the temple, no one was wearing white except one or two who were married. And then we entered the temple room, and the temple room was decorated like if you see the pictures on the old Krishna book, of Krishna's palace, like with all the arches with the flower decorations and pink, etc. like that. They were decorated by Surabi, who later on designed the Vrindavan temple and the Bombay, now Mumbai temple. And I liked it very much. And the deities were Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. Quite small versions, but they're very, very beautiful. And I thought, because I didn't believe in God at the time, I thought, you know, that it was a representation of God, and very abstract, you know, the forms look abstract. But they looked very, you know, they had a big smile, Jagannath. If they are now, the deities are now in Radhadas, and they are the most beautiful Jagannath deities, you know, in the world. But maybe because I've served them for quite some time. But even if I wouldn't have served them, I still think they are the most beautiful ones, most attractive, with my material eyes. So, I came from Mongol Aarti. I loved the Samsara prayers. Then we started chanting japa. And somehow or other, I loved chanting japa. I immediately chanted from the first day, 16 rounds. It was, I don't know, I just liked it, naturally. And then after the morning program was finished, they asked me, do you want to do some service? So I started cleaning the pots, and actually it was all day in the temple, because after I finished, there was again prasadam, and after prasadam, there was again washing pots and cleaning the temple room, or whatever. So by the time I went home, it was dark again, and it was late, and at that time I was smoking cigarettes, so I had one cigarette, and I listened to some music of the Goddess of Fortune, and then I went to bed, and the next day I went to the temple again, and it repeated 6 days. Each day I went to the Mongol Aarti, was there all day, smoked one cigarette at night, and I went to bed, and like that. So after a week, the devotees very cleverly told me, well, so you wanted to go to India, right? To find out the absolute truth. So now you found what you were looking for, right? And says, yes. So why don't you move in the temple? So I thought, okay. So I moved in the temple. And actually, then afterwards they said, well, you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. You know, Krishna will make the arrangement. So I joined in 73, and it was about 1981 that I went for the first time to India. Hare Krishna. So I joined in 1973, and I was initiated after half a year. At that time, there were like thousands of disciples, new disciples. And we were not personally initiated, and we were not given the beads by Srila Prabhupada. So I got my name by telegram. And I got my Brahman initiation 2 years later by a tape recorder, like that. So if you joined in the early 70s, like 1970, 1971, then at that time there were not so many disciples, devotees, and each one, you know, had freely access to Srila Prabhupada. But in 1973 that unfortunately wasn't the case anymore. Even if you would go to a temple where he was there and he wanted to go into his room, his bodyguard or a sannyasi was guarding the room. I was telling them that you couldn't enter. You know, at that time I was thinking sometimes, wow, I wish I would have joined and I could just, you know, be one of the guests and have darshan of Prabhupada. Like that. So, what means initiation for me? At that time, well, I was young, and you are initiated, but you don't really, you know, when you're that young, you don't really understand where you let yourself into, isn't it? And like that, sometimes I've heard of devotees that they just said, hey, Prabhupada gave initiations, and they're just 3 days in the temple. You want to be initiated? And without knowing where, you know, about anything about rules or regulations like that. Hare Krishna. It took me about 38 years that I realized that actually Krishna is aware of what I'm doing, what I'm going through, and that he arranges things, that he's in control. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm very organized in my life. But if you try to get something together in devotional service, then yeah, sometimes it is so difficult to get something together because you're dependent on volunteers who let you down quite often. And you can ask anyone who has a function of authority. So I, as an actor, performer, or director in this case, try to stage a play or even a dramatic readings. People say yes, and then they change their mind, or you know, they go to another country, or sometimes things happen like a family member dies, etc., like that. So I had experienced that actually in 40 years of trying to perform something for the pleasure of the devotees, there was only about 5 times that I actually enjoyed it myself, that it went according the way I had envisioned it. So 2 years ago, I realized that actually Krishna is in control, and that when things, materially speaking, don't go the way I had envisioned, that there is a plan for it, that he maybe wants someone else to play that part in order maybe to bring him or her closer to Hare Krishna movement. Hare Krishna. And that realization gave me much peace and much more a life of a go with the flow, rather than becoming annoyed and disturbed and angry that things doesn't work out the way I had so perfectly planned to make a perfect performance or what else. So since then I've become much more peaceful and just go with the flow, and if something doesn't go the way I had envisioned it, then I just wonder what Krishna has installed, and in generally I found that it turns out better than I had imagined. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. My advice to a newcomer to the Hare Krishna movement is that Krishna consciousness, I always say, you don't have to give up things, just add Krishna to your life. And by adding Krishna to your life, everything which is unfavorable for devotional service, you will gradually lose a taste for it. It becomes stale. It's like, Srila Prabhupada gave the example, if you have a cup of milk, and for instance, some poison or ink will drop in it, then if you just add milk, the poison will go out. So in the beginning, because you have certain habits, wrong habits, and just like even in not trying to be God conscious, but just say for instance, if you want to give up smoking or drinking or whatever, drugs, then you know once you didn't use those substances when you were a kid, and then you got somewhere or other attached to it, either to find peace or to relax, like that. Many people, you know, if they would go out or meet other people, then they need a cigarette in their hand or on some alcohol just in order to relax, to be able to speak to people. So it is very natural that if you have bad habits, that it's very rare that you can cut them off in one go. Like for instance, when I used to smoke, you know, you can gradually, minimize your cigarettes from one packet, say for instance, till you can start smoking 10 by maybe smoking the first cigarette later and later, or maybe smoke the lighter cigarettes and put holes above the filter, and in this way you get less nicotine in it, and then at one point you don't need it anymore. Of course you can buy now those electric cigarettes, I've heard, like that. But so all these attachments of things which are not really, first of all, they're not healthy for you, they cost you money, and you don't need them. You don't need them to become God conscious, you know, like that. And so for someone new to Krishna consciousness, I would just say, chant Hare Krishna, read the books, and then gradually you will see that material life, material sense enjoyment has a beginning and an end, just like I was saying, the cigarette. You light up a cigarette and you enjoy the cigarette, although it's not even enjoyable, but you think it's enjoyable. And then when the cigarette is finished, you have to light up another cigarette, which costs you money. You get brown fingers, your brown lungs, and horrible breath. It costs you money. It's raining and you have to go outside to buy cigarettes. You know, all these things, you know, all these things you don't need. And it doesn't really make you happy. So my advice is that you should try to be so detached that if you would, I was thinking myself, if I would land in an island where no one lives, you know, with a shipwreck. And then I'm completely dependent on myself. And so I don't want to hanker for this or that. I want to be self-satisfied. That was my aim in life, to be self-satisfied. And that's my advice to newcomers. If you want to be really happy, really, then you should try to fill your soul with spiritual food, which is chanting, of eating, controlling your tongue, who always wants to eat this and that, just food which is offerable to Krishna, his remnants, and stop watching or hearing things which has nothing to do with improving your spiritual life. Because, like you might watch a movie and it might be interesting, but then afterwards you feel like it's same like it doesn't have an after enjoyment. Or spiritual life, if you enjoy spiritually afterwards, you still enjoy, and like that. And anything material has a beginning and an end, and then it's finished. And spiritual enjoyment, it first of all is free. It doesn't ruin your health. Actually, it restores your health, because by not giving in to the senses, you automatically, your body becomes very purified, and you start getting your natural health back, and you start glowing more. That's what if you see a sage described, or Jesus Christ, or that they have an aura around them, and that is the aura of purity. It's like that, and you start to glow, like as many people saw Srila Prabhupada glow. Like that, every saintly person, you see a halo around them. That is their purity. So, for newcomers, I would just say, add Krishna to your life. And then Krishna will make arrangements for you to, if things are in between you and him, then he will make arrangements that it will be dissolved. Whatever it is. Hare Krishna. You ask me what my favorite form of Krishna is and what my favorite pastime is. Well, actually, I am very much attracted to Lord Balaram and to his pastimes. I think he's quite a character. And all the stories in the Krishna book, I just we describe a pastime of Lord Balaram. It's just his personality, his character, his looks, everything is, I don't know, I just feel attracted to it. I can't explain it. Why? Although I know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and accept him as, the origin, just like some people, some of my godbrothers, they are attracted to Lord Ramachandra. So if I could describe it myself as, I'm a Balaram Bhakta. And yeah, there's like that. And well, that's my answer to your question. Hare Krishna. And one more thing, I'm also actually more attracted to Dwarka Lila than to Krishna Lila, to Vrindavan Lila. And although also I know that the pastimes in Vrindavan are sweeter, the stories of Dwarka, they attract me more. And I just follow my heart and my instinct, and I'm happy with that. And maybe, if I get more purified, who knows, I might become more attracted to Vrindavan Lila, or maybe even more to Krishna. But for now, I'm perfectly happy. Hare Krishna. The services that I've done in these 40 years, so I started cleaning the temple, and because I'm quite tidy and organized, I I soon, while still a bhakta, became the temple commander. Then, when I got my Brahmin initiation, I became Pujari, the head Pujari in Amsterdam. And then after 2 years in the movement, I heard that there was a drama group in New York called the Vaikuntha Players. So I really wanted to go to New York to join them. Also at that time, in 1975, in 1975, I think I heard the album A Change of Heart of Mangalananda. And I thought, wow, amazing. So you can do that in Krishna consciousness too. And I thought when I joined that acting, etc., all those things were material. And then in 1975 we started doing plays as well. And I didn't know there was an actual drama group in New York. So when I found it out, I really wanted to go to New York. And then finally in 1977, 2 years after that, I got permission to go. And so I went to New York in, I think it was January, February. And then I just had arrived in New York when the Vaikuntha Players were requested or ordered by Srila Prabhupada to come to Mayapur to perform the Mayapur Festival. But because I wasn't in any of their plays, I had to stay behind in New York, and I was dressing Lord Jagannath while they were in India. So then my visa was for half a year, a tourist visa, and then I returned to Amsterdam, and then I was head pujari. No, I was guest master, and I decorated the place, kept it clean, and because I heard, you know, sometimes in those days everyone was in Sankirtan, but then if someone came to the temple, no one was there. So I thought, you know, it's nice if someone rings the bell that there is someone there to welcome them, and Hare Krishna, welcome them, give them some prasadam, show them the temple, the deities, etc. So I asked, when I returned from New York, the temple president asked me, so what do you want to do? And I said, well, I would like to be the guest master. So then, in the end of '77, somewhere or other, the GBC at the time, I didn't appreciate so much. So I explained to my godbrothers that I wanted to go to England. And then when that TBC came to our center in Amsterdam, he called me in and he offered me all kinds of services. And then I said, no, I want to go to England. And then he said, well, then if you want to go to England, be gone at 3 o'clock. I had my bags already packed. So I went to England, and I started working with a drama group and doing some Pujari work. I ended up to be in charge of the Bhaktivedanta Players in early 80s, and I was like the regional head Pujari of the whole zone of the GBC at the time in 1984, 85, like that, Hare Krishna. And the last 10 years of my life, in the 90s, I started recording, writing and composing musicals and dramas together with other devotees, and we recorded them. Musicals, that's Govardhan, Sudama Brahman, Krishna Janma, The Kidnap of Princess Rukmini and Dhruva Maharaj, and many plays, The Brahman and the Cobbler, Shamataka Jewel, etc., etc. I have a website called www.parividha.com, and Parividha. And if you visit it, you can listen to a song of each of my musicals and a scene of each of my dramas and comedies. The last 10 years, I've been writing lyrics about the ups and downs of devotee lives, set to mainly Broadway melodies, but sometimes also a Beatles song or a Rolling Stones song or whatever. I choose the music which goes with the lyrics. Sometimes I'm inspired by a melody, sometimes I'm inspired by the original lyrics, sometimes I use words from the original song, but generally I started in the beginning doing that, but because if people hear the original words, they have the tendency to remember the original song, and I don't want them to remember the original song. I want them to be completely engrossed immersed in the lyrics I'm singing. So I try to avoid using lines, anything from new lyrics I'm writing. So with these songs, I'm traveling all over the world. People invite me to perform them, along with also sometimes some of the skits like Dracula Gets the Sauce or The Boatman and the Scholar. And I also give drama workshops and vocal workshops and like that. And I like teaching, I like sharing what I've learned. Because when you get older, you learn things, you learn sometimes the hard way. And I like to teach people so that they will save time in their life. How to use your voice that doesn't go flat, or to make it more warmer sounding, like that. And how to act, what am I saying, and who am I, and why am I saying that, and then if you know these things, it's a method called of Stanislavski. Who am I, what am I saying, and why am I saying it? Then you can act out everything. Then you can taste the words, and you're not mental. You taste it and you become that person. Sometimes I see in a play, and they try to act out Lord Chaitanya. They try to look saintly, and they go like this, and it becomes sickening because it's not real. You just have to be yourself, like you're happy and singing and dancing, and then you look natural. Even if you're not beautiful or elegant like that, you will, if you're just happy. Everyone who's happy is beautiful, and like that. So you can't act happiness, you just have to feel it. So that's what I've been doing the last years, and I like teaching people, and I like to make people happy in Krishna consciousness, actually, because Krishna consciousness for me, it's actually a party. And I see many people, they have a party in the beginning, but then afterwards they forget to party. They don't enjoy. I don't know why, but they miss their enthusiasm which they had when they were young. So for newcomers to this movement, if you feel like, not so enthusiastic as you were in the beginning, then ask yourself, why is this? Because when I came here, I was completely fulfilled, and I was absolutely sure, and I'm absolutely sure that outside what I've rejected, it wasn't worthy of spending time in it, and it just made me depressed, or not, it didn't fulfill my life. So why am I now not so happy anymore than as I was in the beginning? And then all the devotees can, all the devotees can explain to you what you might be doing wrong. It is just, it's a scientific process, Krishna consciousness. There are steps by steps, from faith to actually experience love of God. and I'm far from that last point, but you know, I'm trying each day, you know, to improve my spiritual life, so that hopefully, you know, I will make it in this lifetime. I don't think I will, but I'm just plodding on, and you know, hoping that somewhere or other, you know, I get the mercy of Prabhupada and of Krishna, that they, you know, that they will help me to put the dots on the I, and although, you know, I haven't even only have a little I, so, but like that, but I see light in there, you know, that I see a bright future. And if I don't make it this lifetime, I know, you know, any percentage what I can do more. Like say for instance, if I've done like 48% now of the 100% what they're supposed to be, then I'd go for 49 or 50 or 51, 52. And whatever I do in this lifetime, I don't have to do in my next life. But hopefully, you know, I don't have another lifetime, because when I was 22, I already had that. I find material life, you know, it's stale. It's, you know, I enjoy nice weather, springtime. So that's why I'm attracted to the spiritual world also, because, you know, that's always springtime. I don't like mosquitoes or flies or all kinds of horrible animals. You don't find them in the spiritual world. And I don't like horrible people and war and ugly things and gross things. And you don't have them in the spiritual world. That's why that world is so appealing to me. And although I don't consider or even have the idea that I would be an intimate associate of the Lord, I would be just happy to be a citizen or anyone, you know, just to see the pastimes of the Lord happening in front of me, and then maybe by seeing them so close by that any other desires will just fall away, and that you will really develop love of Godhead. Hare Krishna.